I was less than 10 steps from my front gate when I realized someone else knew exactly how many laps I ran that night. That's what still scares me, not the chase, not the car, but the moment I understood I wasn't running alone anymore. I was 17 and getting ready to graduate high school. Running was how I handled everything: exams, drama with friends, and college applications. Whenever I faced stress, I would put on my shoes and head out onto the pavement. Almost every evening, I ran the same loop in my suburb in Maple Ridge, Ohio. I would begin at my residence, jog along Pine Street, pass through a small park featuring a walking trail, circle the artificial lake, and return via the same route. It took me about 30–35 minutes. I also tracked all my runs on a fitness app called Run Tracker. My friends used it too, mostly to flex their times and send memes. I maintained my profile as public because I believed that no one was interested in my modest neighborhood walks. That evening was normal at first. Early spring, sky cloudy but not dark yet, air a little cool. I put on my usual running outfit, grabbed my phone, and told my mom, "I'm just doing the lake loop. I'll be back before it gets dark." She shouted back from the kitchen, "Okay, be safe. Text me if you need a ride." I put my earbuds in, hit start on Run Tracker, and stepped outside. The first weird thing happened halfway down Pine Street. As I passed the corner near the small grocery store, I saw a white sedan parked along the curb. Nothing unusual about that, people parked there all the time. But the person inside, that was different. He was in his 30s, maybe early 40s. Baseball cap, dark hoodie, both hands on the steering wheel, looking straight ahead, not on his phone, not adjusting the radio, just sitting. I kept my eyes forward and jogged past like normal. I'm a girl running alone. I don't make eye contact with strange men sitting in cars. That's just basic survival. I hit the small park entrance and relaxed a little. The park always felt safe. It had a paved walking path that cut through some trees and came out near the lake. There were usually dog walkers, kids on bikes, and other joggers. But that evening it was quieter. I passed one woman walking a golden retriever and a guy pushing a stroller, then nobody. Just my footsteps, my breathing, and the soft crunch of gravel. I told myself it was fine. Cloudy days kept people home. When I reached the lake, the air felt heavier. The water was still, gray from the sky above. I could hear a few cars moving on the road far away, but the path itself was almost empty. I slowed to a jog and started my loop around the lake. That's when I saw him again, the man from the white sedan. He was standing near one of the benches, facing the water. No car. He had his hands tucked into his hoodie pockets. Same hat, same profile. For a second I doubted myself. Maybe it wasn't him. Lots of guys wear hats and hoodies, right? But when I jogged closer, my stomach dropped. Same jawline, same posture, same blank stare. He didn't look at me when I approached, but I could feel it. That awareness you get when someone is pretending not to watch you. I kept running, eyes straight ahead, heart beating faster now, not from the exercise. Be paranoid, I told myself. You're at a lake in a public park. You're fine. I finished my first loop and started on my second. The clouds grew darker, like rain might start soon. As I came around the curve again, he was still there, same bench, same posture. He remained motionless. He wasn't walking, he wasn't stretching, he wasn't doing anything normal you would see at a park. He was just waiting for what, for whom. I felt a prickle on the back of my neck. I decided to cut my run short. Instead of finishing a second full lap, I took the side path that led back to the park entrance. I glanced over my shoulder once. The man had finally moved. He was standing now, turned slightly more in my direction. It was enough to make my walk turn into a jog again. As I re-entered the tree-lined path toward the neighborhood, I pulled one earbud out, then the other. I wanted to hear everything. I wanted to hear everything. The wind, my footsteps, and any other footsteps. At first, all I heard was my breathing. Branches creaked softly overhead. A bird called once and then went quiet. Halfway through the path, I heard it, a second rhythm behind me. The footsteps were soft and heavy. I wasn't running, but I wasn't strolling either, just steady, matching me. I sped up. The steps sped up too. I didn't look back. I didn't want to see his face yet. Seeing it would make it more real. I knew the path by heart. In about 300 feet, there was a small side trail. Just a dirt cut-through behind the old library. It was steeper and overgrown. Most people didn't use it anymore because it was slippery after rain. I had only taken it with my friends a couple of times, but I knew where it came out, right across from my street. I took a deep breath and made a choice. At the last second, I cut hard to the right onto the dirt trail. Branches slapped my arms, loose rocks rolled under my shoes. I heard a sharp inhale from behind me, the sound of someone surprised, and then faster footsteps. I leaned forward, nearly tumbling down the slope instead of running. Leaves slid under my shoes. I grabbed at twigs with my hands to keep balance. Halfway down, I risked a look back. He was there, same hat, same hoodie, eyes locked on me now, no more pretending I didn't exist. He was closer than I expected, too close. I pushed harder, legs burning, lungs on fire. The cut-through spat me out near the sidewalk behind the library, just like I remembered. From there, it was a straight shot across the road to my neighborhood. I didn't even pause to check for cars. I just ran. I sprinted down Pine Street, every house a blur, yard after yard flashing past. When my house came into view, I felt that tiny flicker of relief. I took my key out while I was still moving, yanked the gate open, and stumbled up the steps. Before I went inside, I turned around and looked back down the street. He was standing at the corner, just standing there, not running anymore, not yelling, not chasing, just watching. I slammed the door shut, locked it, and slid down to the floor, shaking. I didn't tell my mom. I know how that sounds, but I knew what she would say. No more running alone. No more night loops. No more lake. Running was the only thing that kept me sane. I wasn't ready to give it up, so I did something stupid instead. I showered, got in bed, and opened Run Tracker, planning to delete that route from my history. That's when I saw it. I had gained a new follower username. Miles' profile picture. A white car. The car in question is a white sedan. My chest went cold. I tapped his profile. He had no runs posted, no friends. There were no other followers besides me, just one screenshot uploaded under shared routes. It was a map, my map, tonight's route, my street, the park, the lake. The cut-through was located behind the library. The title on the screenshot was only 2 words, nice pace. I hadn't shared that run yet. I always shared at the end when I was done. But the app had been tracking me live the whole time, and my profile was public. He didn't have to follow me on the street to see where I was going. He just had to follow my route. I blocked him immediately, turned my profile to private, and deleted the app, all of it. But to this day, when I run, I never use any tracking apps. I don't share my routes. I don't post my times. I don't tag locations. Because now I know the truth. Sometimes the person following you doesn't start on the sidewalk. They start on your screen. I used to think the scariest thing on an evening jog was a stray dog or a twisted ankle. But that changed the night I realized someone was waiting for me in the woods. Not to rob me, not to hurt me, but because they had been there long before I arrived. And they were waiting for me to look up. I was 19 that summer, back home from community college and trying to get in shape. Every evening after dinner, I jogged a quiet nature trail behind my neighborhood in Willow Creek, North Carolina. It wasn't a real hiking trail, more like an old maintenance road with gravel, tall grass on both sides, and thick woods stretching for miles. Locals used it for biking and dog walking, but after 7 p.m. it usually got empty. I liked the quiet. Running there felt peaceful, just crickets, birds, and the soft crunch of gravel under my shoes. That evening started like any other, low orange sunset, warm air, the smell of pine drifting through the woods. I put in my earbuds, started jogging, and let my mind drift. I didn't think about school or work or anything stressful. I focused only on the rhythm of my feet hitting the path. I had no idea how swiftly everything would change. I reached the midpoint of the trail, an open patch where an old wooden bench sat under a huge fallen tree. I always turned around here. The distance from home was approximately 1.5 miles, and by that time the sun had already set. But that day, someone was sitting on the bench, a girl. At first, I felt relieved. Solo runners always relax when they're not alone on a trail. She looked about 15 or 16, pale skin, long black hair braided over her shoulder, wearing a light blue dress. But the dress, it looked outdated. It resembled a style from the 1980s or early 1990s. She wasn't looking at me, she was staring straight into the woods across from her, her body stiff like she was afraid to turn her head. Still, I tried to be polite. "Hey," I said gently as I slowed down. "Are you okay?" She didn't respond, not even a blink, just stared deeper into the trees as if she was listening to something I couldn't hear. I pulled out my earbuds. That's when I realized the woods was silent, completely silent. No crickets, no birds, there was not even a breeze, just stillness. The silence was oppressive and heavy. Do you need help?" I asked again, slowly, so slowly, it made my spine crawl. The girl turned her head toward me, not her body, just her head. Her neck did not move in a natural manner. Her eyes were huge, not innocent huge, unnatural huge, pale gray, almost white, with dark rings around them. Her mouth was small, thin, and emotionless. She looked at me like I wasn't supposed to be there. Then she smiled. She gave a tiny, cold smile that didn't reach her eyes. Before I could react, she whispered 2 words in a voice that sounded wrong, as if she were speaking through a wall. "You're late." I stumbled back, confused. Late for what? Her smile dropped instantly. Her eyes flicked past me toward the path behind, and then she was gone, not gotten up, not walked away. Just gone. In one blink she was sitting on the bench. The next blink revealed empty wood, no sound, no movement, no footsteps. There was only the bench beneath the fallen tree. My breath caught in my throat. I looked around wildly. "Hello, where did you go?" Nothing. The air was still dead silent. Like the entire trail was holding its breath. Then I felt it, that thick, heavy prickling on the back of my neck, the feeling of being watched. I turned around slowly. The trees behind me were now darker. The sun had nearly vanished and the woods were full of shadows, but I swear someone stood between the trees. The figure was tall and stationary, not moving, not breathing, just standing, watching. I didn't wait to see more. I broke into a sprint, running harder than I ever had, my lungs burning, gravel spraying under my feet. About halfway down the trail, I risked a glance back. The shape was closer, much closer. It wasn't walking, it wasn't running. It was just there. Every time I looked back, it seemed a few feet nearer, like the distance kept collapsing. My body shook uncontrollably. I could barely breathe. I don't remember the last half mile. I was overcome with pure panic, branches scraping my arms. Shadows stretching across the path. My heartbeat drowned out everything else. When I burst out of the woods into the clearing near the neighborhood, sound returned all at once. Crickets, birds, cars on the distant road, and the wind through the grass. But something was wrong. At the trail entrance, leaning against the old park sign, was the girl again. Same blue dress, same pale skin. She had the same enormous gray eyes, except now she was smiling wide, too wide, like her cheeks were stretched too far. As I stopped, frozen with terror, she tilted her head and whispered, "You weren't supposed to see him." Then she vanished, just like before. She disappeared right before my eyes. I ran the entire way home without stopping. For days, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face, her stare, that impossible smile. Boo. The worst part came 3 days later. I returned to the trail in daylight, trying to prove to myself that I had imagined it. That stress and low light were messing with my mind. When I reached the old bench under the fallen tree, I stopped cold. The bench was still there, but carved deep into the wood were 2 words: "Too late." Fresh, sharp-edged. It appeared as though it had been freshly carved. It felt as if someone was patiently waiting for my return. I never ran that trail again. My family moved out of Willow Creek a year later, and I thought that was the end of it. But last month, while cleaning out some boxes, I found my old running shoes. Inside one of them, stuffed deep into the toe, was a piece of paper, 2 words written in pale blue ink: "Still watching." I don't jog anywhere far from home now. And when I see a girl sitting alone, I never, ever say hi. You don't know who was there before you arrived. The fear began before I even saw him. People always say, if you're being followed, you'll hear footsteps. But that's not true. Sometimes the scariest person you'll ever meet walks without making a sound. And when he does speak, it's not to threaten you, it's to let you know he's been watching you longer than you realize. I was 18, living with my dad in Riverbend, Florida, a quiet town with long bike paths, canals, and tall palm trees. Every night around 10 p.m., I went for a jog. I hated crowds, and the dark never bothered me. Besides, Riverbend wasn't dangerous, or so I thought. There was a long dirt path behind our neighborhood called Palm Canal Trail. One side was the canal. The other side was a line of fences behind people's backyards with trees and shrubs covering most of it. Even though it looked creepy, it was peaceful. The water reflected moonlight, frogs croaked, and the air smelled like wet grass. That night was different from the start. A storm had passed earlier, so the ground was soft and muddy. The air felt heavy, clouds still hid the moon, and the entire trail was darker than normal, like the shadows were deeper somehow. Still, I started my run, a weighted run because I wanted to push myself. I put a 15-pound steel plate inside my backpack and tightened the straps. By the time I reached the canal, my breathing was steady, my heartbeat calm. Then I heard it, a slow, deep breathing somewhere behind me, not mine, not an animal. A grown man's breathing. I stopped and turned quickly, nothing but darkness. The trees rustled in the light wind. The canal water sloshed softly. I told myself I was being paranoid. Storms always made the night louder. I kept jogging. 10 minutes later, I heard it again. Closer, heavier, a slow inhale followed by a longer exhale. Someone was there watching, matching my pace, staying just out of sight. I didn't stop this time. I kept moving like I didn't notice, hoping whoever it was wouldn't know that I heard him. The trail curved and the canal narrowed. On the other side of the water, between the fences, I saw something move, a shadow, tall, human-shaped. I blinked, gone. I shook my head and kept running. When I reached the halfway point of the trail, the path dead-ended into a small wooden bridge that crossed the canal. Once I crossed it, I could loop back toward the main road. As I approached the bridge, I slowed down to breathe. That's when I heard it again, not breathing this time, footsteps, soft but fast. Like someone was jogging lightly on purpose. I turned my head just slightly, pretending to stretch my neck. A figure stood at the edge of the trail, maybe 40 feet back. A man wearing all black from hood to boots. He wasn't running, he wasn't walking, he was just standing, facing me. I felt ice crawl up my spine. I wanted to run, but if I sprinted suddenly, he'd know I was scared and chase harder, so I forced myself to walk casually onto the bridge. The wood creaked under my feet. I could feel him watching. When I reached the middle of the bridge, I heard him speak. A deep voice, calm but wrong. "I see you." My whole body locked. He said it like he'd been waiting for the perfect moment to reveal himself. I dropped my backpack instantly. The weight slammed onto the wood. With the weight gone, my legs felt lighter, springy, all instinct. I bolted. Behind me, I heard the wood groan, and then footsteps, fast, heavy footsteps slamming onto the bridge. He was chasing me. The moment I hit the dirt again, I ran faster than I ever had. My lungs burned, my arms shook, but I didn't slow down. I couldn't. The trail back to the neighborhood was muddy and uneven. Rainwater had collected in large puddles. Every few steps, my shoes splashed, slipped, or slid. But every time I slowed even a little, I heard him speeding up. I didn't dare look behind me. I felt him there, too close, too fast, too silent, except for his breathing. The mud slowed me down, but not him. Somehow, he stayed steady, like the ground didn't affect him at all. After a few minutes, I reached the small wooden gate that separated the path from the sidewalk near the school. My legs were shaking, my throat felt raw. I grabbed the gate. It stuck for a second, swollen from the rain. I panicked, pulled harder, and finally it snapped open. I sprinted onto the sidewalk, slipping once. Streetlights glowed orange above me. Cars moved on the distant main road. Life, people, safety. I risked a glance back. The man had stopped at the gate, just stood there. His head tilted slightly to the side like he was studying me or memorizing me. I didn't wait. I ran the entire way home without looking back. I told myself I would get my backpack the next morning. It wasn't worth going back in the dark. But when I returned around 10 a.m., I froze where I stood. My backpack was there, but not where I dropped it. Someone had moved it to the middle of the bridge. And pinned to the front pocket with a small rusted nail was a folded piece of paper. My hands shook as I opened it. Inside, in crooked handwriting, were 3 words: "See you soon." My stomach dropped, my visi. On blurred, I grabbed the bag and ran home. A few days later, a story appeared on the local news. 2 people, a man walking his dog and a woman jogging alone, had been found dead in a city 20 minutes from Riverbend. A hitchhiker was suspected. A man wearing all black. Police released a description: tall, lean, wore dark clothing, often silent, approached people near trails at night. I felt sick. It was him. I never saw the man again, but I never ran at night after that, not once. Because the one thing that haunts me most wasn't the chase or the footsteps or even the note pinned to my backpack. It was the way he said those 3 words: calm, casual, confident. "I see you." Like he wasn't warning me, like he was promising meth that he'd always be right behind me. The moment I knew something was wrong, most creepy people stare. Some follow, some talk too much, but the scariest ones, they pretend to be friendly until you realize they've planned your route better than you have, and by the time you notice, you're already walking exactly where they want you. I was 14 when it happened, too young to understand how dangerous adults can be, but old enough to feel when something isn't right. We had a half day at school in Briar City, New York, because of a cultural event. Everyone was dressed up, nice clothes, polished shoes, many pictures taken. It was raining lightly when the day ended. My parents were both at work, and I didn't want to wait hours at school for a ride. The walk home through Maple View Park was only 25 minutes, even in the rain. So I put on my purple raincoat, tightened the hood, and started walking. I wish I had just stayed at school. A couple of blocks before the park entrance, I stopped at a crosswalk. A man was already waiting there. Middle-aged, he was dressed in a gray jogging shirt and running shoes. Running shoes. The jacket he wore was light and waterproof, looked like someone's normal dad out for a jog. There's nothing scary about him. He smiled politely. I smiled back, then he started talking. "Big day at school?" he asked. I nodded. "Yeah, kind of." "What's the dress for? Something special?" he said, glancing at my clothes. "School event," I answered, trying to keep my voice short. People in the city don't usually do small talk with strangers. But he seemed harmless. Older people sometimes talk too much. We crossed the street together. I expected him to go on ahead or turn into the park entrance, but he didn't. He slowed down to match my walking speed. "So, walking home in the rain, huh?" he chuckled. "Makes you look very grown up." My stomach tightened. Grown up. Why did he say it like that? I didn't respond. I simply continued to walk. He talked more. About how he loved jogging in the rain. About how young people don't walk enough these days. Normal words. He expressed it in an unusual manner. The more he talked, the closer he walked. Our arms almost touched. That's when I noticed something that made every hair on my neck stand up. He had passed the entrance to Maple View Park. The entrance was only 5 feet away from us. A giant sign that said MAPLEVIW Park Trail right arrow. To get to the jogging path, he had to turn there. Everyone who runs uses that entrance, but he kept walking straight with me. He wasn't going jogging. He was following my direction. My heart thumped harder. "You missed your turn," I said quietly, pointing behind him. He stopped smiling just for a second, a tiny flicker of annoyance, then the smile snapped back on too quickly. "Oh, it's fine," he said, waving his hand. "I can run later. I like talking to pretty girls." That sentence froze me. Pretty girls, not kidding, not a student girl. He stepped closer, too close. I instantly pulled away. "This is my stop," I said loudly, turning toward the first building I saw. It wasn't my building. I had no idea what it was, but I pushed the door open and walked inside like I lived there. The building had a security desk with a doorman, a tall guy in a navy blazer. He looked up as I walked in, confused. The man from outside stepped into the doorway. I'm still smiling, still watching me. The doorman noticed instantly. "Are you okay, miss?" he asked. I nodded quickly and whispered, "Can I wait here?" That man followed me from the crosswalk. The doorman stood straight and walked to the entrance. "May I help you, sir?" he asked the man. "Oh," the man said dramatically, "I'm just waiting for my daughter." My chest tightened. Daughter? I had never spoken to him in my life. The doorman frowned. "Your daughter doesn't live here. Who are you waiting for?" The man chuckled nervously. "Oh, she must have gone upstairs already." The doorman pointed outside. "Sir, if you don't leave, I'm calling 911. The smile finally faded from the man's face. His jaw tensed. For one dark second, he just stared at me, not frustrated, not sad, just calculating. Then he turned and walked away in the rain. The doorman locked the door. I stood there shaking. After about 10 minutes, the doorman brought me a bottled water. "You did the right thing," he said. "Creeps like that come through sometimes." I called an older friend with a car to pick me up. She lived 5 minutes away and drove over fast. But as I stepped outside to walk toward her car, something made me look across the street. Inside a small cafe, behind the foggy window, sat the same man. No coffee, no pastry. I was seated comfortably at a table. The door of the building where I had been hiding was in my line of sight, watching. My friend pulled up and I ran to the car. "Drive," I whispered. She didn't ask questions. For months, I refused to walk home alone. Rainy days worsened it. But the thing that haunts me most happened a year later. I was scrolling through local community alerts when a photo caught my eye. A man arrested near Mapleview Park for attempting to lure multiple minors. They warned parents to be careful because he had been spotted approaching kids and teens on jogging paths. I clicked the photo. It was him. He was wearing the same rain jacket, same running shoes, same unsettling smile. The article said he lived only 8 blocks from my route. He had been roaming the area for months. My hands shook so hard I dropped my phone. I don't walk through Mapleview Park anymore. I no longer walk through Mapleview Park in the rain. Not in daylight. Not ever. Because now I know some strangers don't follow you by accident. They follow you because they've been waiting for you to walk by for a very, very long time. The moment I knew I wasn't just being paranoid. Everyone tells you, if a car slows down near you, don't panic. Maybe they're just lost. But what if the car slows down again and again and again, no matter which turn you take, no matter how fast you run? At some point, you stop pretending it's a coincidence. At some point, you start running for your life. I grew up in Sutter Valley, Washington, a small farming town where the roads were long and straight and the fields stretched forever. Everything there is arranged in giant mile-square blocks, and if you jog around the outskirts, you pretty much know every house, every barn, and every dog that barks. I was 22 when this happened, old enough to know better but still stupid enough to think nothing catastrophic could happen in a quiet place. That evening it was lightly raining, just a drizzle, not enough to bother me. I put on my headphones, stretched, and started a long jog. My route was simple: run 1 mile down Evergreen Road. Take a left, run half a mile to the small connector road, turn around and head home. It usually took me about 30 minutes. Halfway down Evergreen Road, a car slowed beside me, a dark blue sedan, windows tinted. The engine hummed softly. It rolled up next to me as if matching my pace, then the window lowered just 2 inches, not enough to see the driver clearly. A male voice called out, "Hey, are you okay in this rain?" I startled but stayed polite. "Yeah," I said, "I'm fine, thank you." The car didn't move at first, just idled there. Then the window rolled up and the car drove off slowly, turning onto the connector road. I didn't think too much of it. People in small towns talk too much, that's all. 3 minutes later, the same car appeared behind me again. This time it didn't slow down fully. It just crept past me and parked on the side of the road up ahead, right at the next intersection. A chill crawled up my spine. Why would he park there? Nobody lived near that corner. Just empty fields and a large dairy farm a little farther ahead. But I forced myself not to panic. Maybe he was checking his phone, maybe he needed directions. My instincts were screaming that it was anything but the truth. As I approached the intersection, the car's brake lights blinked. The driver wasn't getting out, wasn't rolling down the window, just waiting, pretending. I passed him, heart pounding, pretending not to notice. Then, out of the corner of my eye, I saw movement. The car pulled back onto the road, slowly, silently, following me again. My steps quickened. His engine stayed soft and controlled, like he didn't want to scare me. But that made it worse. I was the only person on that road. No houses in sight anymore, only fields, rain, and a dark blue car creeping behind me. When I reached the little half-mile connector road, my planned turnaround point, I made a decision. I didn't turn around. I kept going straight. I wasn't stupid enough to run right past the man who was following me, but I didn't have many options. The area ahead had no houses either, and the nearest neighborhood was a quarter-mile down the right turn. I risked a glance back. The car was still there, hazard lights off, headlights dim, moving just slow enough to stay behind me without catching up. I felt sick. I started sprinting. The rain picked up, making the road even slicker. My shoes splashed through puddles. My breathing grew ragged. But every time I looked back, the car was still there, not gaining, not losing, just following, waiting for me to tire out. The dairy farm was coming into view on my right, a long chain-link fence, huge barns, and a few trucks parked by the entrance. I saw a light on inside the main building. People were there, safety, relief nearly made my knees buckle. I turned sharply down the service road toward the farm, sprinting at full speed. Behind me, tires screeched. The car accelerated, fast this time, like the driver realized I was escaping. I didn't dare look back. I ran harder, rain blinding me, lungs burning. I could hear his engine closing in, the road rumbling under his tires. Almost there, I whispered to myself. Almost. A truck door slammed open ahead of me. My uncle's voice shouted, "Hey, you okay?" He just walked out of the farm office. I pointed behind me but couldn't speak, just gasped for air. My uncle looked past me toward the road. The blue sedan had stopped abruptly at the entrance, engine running, headlights aimed directly at us. My uncle stepped forward, waving his arms aggressively. "Hey, what do you want?" The car didn't move for a full 3 seconds, 3 long, heavy, terrifying seconds. Then it backed up, slow at first, then faster, then sped off down the road, gone. I collapsed to my knees, shaking. Inside the farm office, my uncle gave me water and called my parents. I told them everything, the rain, the car, the driver, and the way he kept circling. My mom's face turned white. "I just saw Carol leave for a jog 15 minutes ago," she said. "She runs the same route." My uncle grabbed his keys and jumped back into his truck. My mom went with him. They drove fast down the block roads, checking every intersection, every shoulder, and every field. They found Carol, thankfully safe, but she said, a man in a blue car pulled up and tried to talk to me. He stopped when he saw my phone in my hand. I felt my stomach twist. He was choosing his targets, girls running alone, no phone visible, no houses nearby. The next day, my neighbor, a retired police officer, asked me for the car description. When I told her, she stiffened. That same car stopped by my front yard last week. He asked my daughter if she lived here. A shiver ran down my arms. 2 days later, we learned the truth. The man in the blue sedan had just been released from jail. He wasn't supposed to be in our county. He wasn't supposed to interact with minors or young women. He had violated his parole, but they never found him. I don't jog alone anymore, not at dusk, not in the rain, not on long, empty roads surrounded by fields. Because now I understand something I didn't want to believe. Some people don't want to hurt you fast. They want to watch you first, learn your route, learn your pace, wait for you to be alone, and then pull up beside you very slowly. The sound that did belong when you run alone at night. You get used to hearing things, your breath, your shoes hitting the ground, cars in the distance. But the night I heard someone else's footsteps inside the tunnel even though I was the only person there, was the night I realized something terrifying. Not every echo comes from you. I was 20 and home for spring break in Hillcrest, Colorado, a quiet mountain town where the air always smelled like pine and cold dirt. I stayed with my older sister in a small neighborhood right next to a running trail called Eagle Ridge Path. The path was beautiful, tall trees, small wooden bridges, and a long concrete tunnel under the highway. That tunnel was always weirdly cold, even in the summer, but it cut a full mile off the route, so everyone used it. I usually ran in the morning, but that week I was lazy, so one night I jogged after 9:30 p.m. Big mistake. I stepped onto the trail with my hoodie on, earbuds in, and my flashlight on low. The moon was bright, so most of the trail glowed pale silver. For the first 15 minutes, everything felt normal. Just the soft crunch of gravel, little crickets, and my breath fogging in the cold air. Up ahead, the tunnel mouth appeared, a big dark hole under the highway. My flashlight barely lit the inside. I slowed down a little. The tunnel always made me a little nervous, but I'd used it 100 times. Still, tonight felt different, heavier, quieter. I pulled out one earbud, then both. I didn't want to go in half listening. As I stepped into the tunnel, the temperature dropped instantly. It always did, but tonight it felt too cold, way too cold. My footsteps echoed loudly as I went deeper. Tap, tap, tap. I was the only one inside. I reached the center of the tunnel, the part where your footsteps bounce in every direction. When I heard it, another step. It was a lighter step, faster. Tap, tap. I froze. My brain tried to rationalize it. Echoes overlap. You imagined it. Keep going. So I walked again. My footsteps echoed normally. Tap, tap, tap. Then behind me there was a second set of music. Very real, very deliberate. Tap, tap, tap. I spun around. Nothing. A long, empty tunnel stretched behind me. The cold was worse now. My breath puffed out in giant clouds. My heart pounded in my ears. I tried again, taking one slow step. Tap. The echo bounced back softly. Then another step, not mine, came from deeper in the tunnel. Tap, tap. I felt something sinking inside my chest. Someone was in here. Someone who didn't want me to see them. I haven't run yet. Running inside a tunnel echoes too loudly. You can't tell where the sound comes from, so I walked fast, keeping my eyes forward. About 10 feet from the exit, I heard it again. This time it was not footsteps. A whisper. There was a long, slow exhale, like someone breathing out through their teeth. HSSSSSSSS. The sound slithered along the walls, echoing, stretching. I broke into a sprint. The second I hit the open trail outside, I turned to look behind me. Nothing, just darkness. But the cold, that awful, unnatural cold, spilled out of the tunnel like fog. I ran harder, my legs shaking. The rest of the trail toward my sister's house was narrow and darker than usual. Clouds had rolled in, blocking the moon. I kept checking behind me, expecting someone to step out of the trees. When I reached the wooden footbridge, I slowed down to breathe. That's when I heard it again, a step, light, close. I whipped around, still nothing. But I swear, the shadows between the trees seemed deeper, like something was standing just out of sight. I didn't stop again. I ran straight to the house. My sister was half asleep on the couch. "Are you okay?" she mumbled. I nodded, lying through my teeth. "Yeah, just tired." I went straight to my room. I didn't sleep. The next morning, my sister made coffee. I told her what I heard, the footsteps, the whisper, the cold air. She froze. "Run through that tunnel again." Her voice was too serious. "Why?" I asked. She hesitated, like she didn't want to say it. Then she sighed. 2 years ago, somebody disappeared in that tunnel. A runner. They found his phone at the entrance, still recording audio. My hands shook. What was on it? She swallowed. Footsteps. Then his breathing got intense. Then something else. "What else?" A voice, a whisper, just one word. My stomach twisted. "What word?" She looked at me. "Stop." Cold rushed through me. That's precisely what the breathing behind me felt like something telling me not to move. I tried to forget it and stayed inside at night after that. But 3 days later, while packing my bags to go back to campus, I noticed something strange. Mud on my running shoes, not normal trail mud. The trail mud is a unique type of dark gray clay. The kind that only exists inside. This type is unique to the Hillcrest tunnel, but I hadn't gone back inside. I hadn't even gone near it. I lifted the shoes. Underneath them, on the floor, was a long smudge. A footprint, not mine, smaller, bare toes spread wide, like someone had stepped in gray mud and then stepped into my room. Blood ran cold. I checked the window locked, the door locked. There were no signs of forced entry, but the footprint was real. And the cold, that same tunnel cold, lingered in the corner of the room. I left Hillcrest that afternoon. I don't run at night anymore. I don't use tunnels either. Because the truth is simple. Sometimes what follows you out of the dark doesn't need to show itself. It just needs you to hear. One step that wasn't yours.